wonderfully dramatic open. So, Amadeus, it's good to see you, my friend. We didn't get a chance to talk about the weekend, but boy, what a weekend it was. Coach Prime realized that he might have to get a little bit more, few more bodies on the inside to help keep them from, killing his son. It's crazy stuff going on. Great weekend for football, though.
Yeah, Jim, it was a wild weekend in college. It was a wild weekend in NFL. I think a lot of us saw that Colorado slaughter
Yeah.
coming. Never mind the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. We all watched the Eugene Chainsaw Massacre on
Right.
Saturday.
Right.
That was a bad one. But yeah, I mean, this Colorado team, honestly, from what I've seen from USC in these few
Hmm.
weeks, they might have a chance at home in this early start. What is that? 10 a.m. local time in
Well, yeah, it's
Colorado.
9 a.m. for SC because they're coming from the Pacific Coast time zone. So yeah, I don't know how you prepare for a 9 a.m. kickoff, but we'll see. I guess they'll be going to bed early for the rest of this week. But yeah, I mean, normally they're not even for a 12 o'clock game local time. The football team would likely arrive about 2 hours before kick. So that'd be 10. So they're actually arriving even earlier than they would under normal circumstances. So,
They'll be getting their coffee and hash brown on the way to the stadium, Jim.
yeah, usually that's a good point. What happens for football teams is they normally, if it's a noon game, even if it's a 3:30 in the afternoon game, the they eat breakfast, a team breakfast at about 7 or 8 a.m. in that time frame. So my guess is they will be, if they're going to have, breakfast, it's probably going to have to be at 4 o'clock in the morning, something like that, 4 or 5 anyway. So that's not your usual done, brunch, but we'll see how that works. But yeah, it's crazy. Now you and I are of the opinion, along with brother Rye Cape, that the that both of the polls have it wrong. That it's not Georgia that's number one team in the country, but you have to go to Seattle to find that team. And you know the Washington Huskies and Oregon, to me, 1-2 at this point. But I could be wrong. 1-3 at the worst.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. And it's not even like, oh, we need to move Washington up a bit. We're talking about a team that's ranked seventh in the country. You're telling me
Right.
Ohio State is better than them from what you saw against Notre Dame? Absolutely not. And Michigan and Georgia, it's kind of a shame just because they'll keep their top two, and I'm sure they're both very good teams, especially defensively and physically.
Right.
But we've seen both of these offenses struggle in the first few games now, and
Hmm.
it really makes me wonder because neither team plays anybody for the entire season. Obviously, Michigan will see Penn State, and they have probably their toughest game of the season, Ohio State, near the end of the year.
Hmm.
But Georgia, if you look at Georgia's schedule, they don't get anybody tough. They don't see an Alabama or an Ole Miss really. They or any of
Well,
the
they see
tougher SEC.
Florida. I mean, but
Your Gators, Jim, they're going to
right.
take them down.
There's people doubted us against Tennessee and see what happened there.
And they didn't
Yeah.
play anybody non-conference either. So like
No.
you get to the end of the year and you kind of just rank them 1, 2 at a default because that's what it's been the last few years. But you're going to end up leaving a team out that way, and then we'll find out in the playoffs when these teams get destroyed by probably one of the Pac-12 teams that slips in.
Well, too, that is interesting to me is that with regard to Georgia and Michigan, normally Georgia especially has really good skill position players. They get the burners and a decent quarterback and all that play. I don't see it so far. I mean, I don't see the skill spots at Georgia. With now maybe again they haven't played anybody, so you're looking at them basically scrimmaging. It's pretty much the same thing for Michigan. They haven't played anybody either. So, but you look at Oregon, you look at Washington, and by the time they're going to be battle tested pretty soon. I mean, they've definitely, I think we both thought that Oregon could hang 60 points on Colorado. They just felt sorry for them at that point. But and then even if you even take a look, we talked a little bit about how we thought that UCLA and Utah would be like a rock fight, and it turned out to be a rock fight. I don't. We did okay. So basically, they both only scored a touchdown offensively. The game winner was a scoop and score for Utah, so they won that game 14-7. So it was what we thought it was going to be, a rock fight. I, we also thought that Ohio State and Notre Dame would probably be a rock fight, and it turned out to be. But the one thing I want to ask you about this. The one thing that I can't figure out, there's only two guys on that Ohio State team that could have beat you in that last drive, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was injured. Why in heaven's name would you not have doubled, tripled, whatever? Ohio, the kid that was the wide receiver who caught the ball at the goal line. I will never understand why they got off of playing man coverage, which what they were playing press man against them, and they go to zone, and literally the guy just runs an out route and is unprotected all the way to like the 1 yard line. I just don't get it.
Yeah, and let's not forget that was a 3rd and 19, Jim. Completely
Right.
unacceptable. How do you give up 19 yards? All you have to do is get a stop, and they have to go for it. You could have had a 4th and long, but no. You decide to you decide to, as you said, switch to the zone coverage, and they find the nice little pocket right in the zone.
Well, they only rushed free, and all night long they're getting to the quarterback. So I don't know what I
And
do.
then
Yeah, go
how
ahead.
about the fact on the touchdown winning
Mm-hmm.
play? Notre Dame was missing a player on defense on the field.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just yeah. Why not just give them 11? So we don't need 10 players, but they're going to score anyway. I don't know. What I did come away with is I was not impressed by other team. I wish I could say I was, but nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was looking for something, and it didn't. I mean, all right, fine, great defense. We'll credit them for that. We'll say they have good defenses. I don't know that that's true, but we'll say it at this point. Possibly, you know, the team that came out of this to me over the weekend that definitely has some pretty good skins on their belt from a standpoint of wins. FSU beating Clemson at Death Valley after losing 7 straight times at Death Valley was a good result for them. They're not. I don't think they're certainly not the number one team in the country. I'm not going there with it, but they have gotten. They got a win over LSU. They got a win over Clemson. I mean, they have played a representative schedule, probably better than anybody in college at this point. And they're not the best team in college football, but they're darn sure one of the most resilient.
Yeah, I know there's been a lot of talk about this Florida State team being the best in the country the last few weeks. The more I watch them, the less I think that. I'm with
Hmm.
you. I think they're definitely a good team, definitely in the top 10 in the country for sure. But yeah, so there's been a lot of weight on that big win over LSU to start the
Hmm.
season. But the more I look at that win, the more I say to myself, how good is this LSU team really? And I think we're going to find out a lot about them when they go to Mississippi this weekend and play that matchup. They come in as about a 2.5 point favorite,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a game I'm not so sure they roll into town and win that one in Oxford.
Mm-hmm.
So um, I think I'm really starting to think this LSU team's not any good. And you got to remember
Mm-hmm.
that was a neutral site in
Sure, it
Florida,
was in
so
Orlando. Yeah.
yeah, so Florida State had a bit of an advantage there. Now, I brushed off the close win with Boston College because I said they
Mm-hmm.
were looking ahead to this Clemson game. Well, they struggled a lot in Clemson. I
Mm-hmm.
get that. I get that it was in Clemson. It's a very tough place to win.
Mm-hmm.
But we're talking about a day game. It's not like this was a
Right.
night game. This was a day game. They
Mm-hmm.
struggled to win. They actually probably lose that game if that
Mm-hmm.
field goal doesn't get blocked. And
Mm-hmm.
um, personally, I the more I watch this Clemson team, the more I think they're not any good either.
Right. I wouldn't disagree with that. Terrence, how you doing, my friend? Okay, why do blue blood schools surrender their media rights to the conference? In the future, we will see a change. Schools negotiate their own media rights directly with media companies. Um, you know, Terrence, back when dinosaurs ruled the earth and I was doing these games, teams like we just talked about Florida State, teams like Florida State, we're talking about the pre 90s, okay? Florida State, Notre Dame, Miami, Penn State, all these schools were independents. Okay, they wanted that because they could negotiate their own rights. What happened was the conferences, and this was far closer to do with basketball than it had to do with football at all, is that they went into the detail of deciding that being in a conference was an advantage because they were going to begin the process of a playoff system. At that time, there were three polls, okay, and of the three polls, they would decide the quote unquote mythical national champion, right? So what they wanted was a situation where they would end up with a true national championship, which is how we began the process of the BCS first, and now the CFP, the College Football Playoff. So what happened was they felt like getting into conferences that would be a better thing on two fronts. One, your basketball programs would have a better chance of making it to the NCAA tournament, and then the second and more important thing was that the football would be, you know, in the potentially in the playoffs because you would have to be in a conference. Now, we could go the other way, okay, and see teams becoming, and I see this something that as something that may happen in 10 years' time because it's gonna have to take. You got to get out of that contract first. What we may see is college football teams, not but the football teams leaving the conferences and creating what in essence would be a football only division of sports. And I think we're certainly those conferences have to we're at least 7 years from that, but we may even be 10 to 15 years from that. So I think it's going to happen, but I just don't think it's going to happen soon because at this point in time the conference situation is good, but the relegation, which Amedeus and I like that idea a lot, is something that will never fly in a big conference. You're not going to get Purdue to not take, even though Ohio State makes more money, and frankly, you could argue that the Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State in the Big Ten, carry the rest of the conference, and that wouldn't be an argument that would be hard to put together, but again, we're talking about traditions here, and if that happens, and I think it really could, I don't see that it can't happen within the confines of the contracts that they're presently under. So those are going to have to expire at least before we see anything like that. But I do think it's going to come. Will it come in the next 5, 6, 7 years? I don't know. I'm thinking maybe in the next 10, 15 years, something like that. But it will eventually be there. We'll eventually be in what, in essence, would be an NFL type model of maybe the 32 or the 40 best teams in the country, and that'll be it. So the others will play there'll be no reason for them to play into playoffs. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. Okay, here we go. Hey, Justin, let's see what we got. Good to see you guys. Clemson gave that game away multiple times. I still don't think Florida State's elite. I think we agree with you there. I don't
Yeah,
think anybody's going to argue that point.
and that's
The
why I said I
Yeah,
don't know if I would put Florida State,
right.
necessarily in the top four from what I've seen.
Uh
Honestly,
huh.
if you want my honest opinion here, I think Duke might be the best team in that conference right now. And
Might be.
if you don't know Riley Leonard's name already, then you better learn it because Riley Leonard is the real deal. That guy is a good quarterback.
Well, Riley Leonard is the guy who walked into Mike Krzyzewski's office and said, "I'm here. I would like to play." And Coach K decided that might be better off having him as a football player. And I'm pretty sure that Duke is really happy that they've decided that Riley is not going to play basketball for Coach K. He's going to play quarterback for the Blue Devils. And who would have thunk it, right? That Duke, out of all
Well,
these
apparently
schools,
Coach K can coach football too because now
yep,
you just made Duke a football school.
that's right. And well, he's not coaching football anymore, basketball anymore. So
That was his
that's going.
goodbye present.
It was. What do we got here? Does the Big 12 reportedly not have much leverage with withholding to withhold Texas? Is there really believe it's possible crack in the ACC grant rights? Uh, hmm, Let me look at that one more time. Does the Big 12 reportedly not have much leverage to withhold payouts? I don't think so. Um, from a business standpoint, you got one versus two here. You've got two different things. They're not apples to apples; it's apples to oranges. The the payout of the money has to do with them leaving the conference. Okay, so they paid in $100 million to the conference. So I don't think that the grant of rights of the ACC, which is goes through 2036, is as if it were that crackable, I think FSU and Clemson would have figured out a way to get it to break it. At this point in time, I don't think that necessarily is where it is. Let's see what you got there. View the fact the ACC used its grant of rights. Um, that grant of rights. I think again I don't. Well, two things. One, the Big 12 grant of rights. There's no, let me see. There's no uniformity in grants of rights. Okay, grants of rights is each conference has its own formula for grant of rights. So the Big 12 conference has a grant of rights. Is it exactly like the ACC? No. Is it kind of like the ACC? Yeah. I mean, they're all going to be relatively close, but they're not exactly the same. That being said, the negotiation of how much money was going to take OU and Texas to get out of the Big 12 turned out to be approximately, give or take, $100 million. And that's where it's set. And so I guess the answer to your question is they they aren't paying out as much as $100 million. There's money left on the table, okay, but it's between the two of them. It's $100 million is what they've given the Big 12 to get out of the deal. Okay, I think it's like 50 each, but that money, by the way, was used by them to get them. Texas. I'm speaking again now of Texas and Oklahoma. The money that Texas and Oklahoma gave into that deal ended up being money that they used, the conference used, to give a bonus to Colorado for moving into the conference. Okay, so there's that. I don't think that isn't that you can, if you're trying to make an argument that what OU and Texas did can be equated to what is going on in the ACC. I don't think that is it. And maybe look, if I'm if I'm miscalculating or misinterpreting what you're trying to say, please go ahead and let me know. Hang on. Did Notre Dame's coach blunder in the final minutes by playing? Yes, in my opinion. But, I'm not coaching Notre Dame, but yeah. Well, I mean, look, at the last minute, they also didn't have 10. They only had 10 players on the field on that pass play. But yeah, they played zone. They played press coverage the whole game long, and they were fine. I don't know why they didn't do that. But hey, that's Coach Freeman's a good guy. He knows what he's doing. What can I say? All right. They will apparently be, withheld 20 without holding. There apparently be no withholding of the 24. Yeah, you're right about that. You know, the the monies that it's kind of. I think some of it, to an extent, we're going to see in the Pac-12, where the Pac-12 is in court right now. And so I think we're going to see, if you're talking about the money, the conference being able to withhold money from them, no, that's not going to happen. And we're going to have to see how in the Pac-12, it's going to be who controls it. So money, 100%, they're going to get a 20. They're going to get what money was accorded them in 23 and 24. Which you would normally have to wait 6 or 7 years to get, but they're going to get some of that money before they leave. And if that's wrong, if you're trying to ask me a question and I'm not answering it, I apologize on that. What's the top college teams you think have been improved through the transfer portal? 100% Washington. They got really good in the portal, but they were really good before, in honesty. Same with Oregon. Oregon, got Bo Nix through the portal. And then, of course, Washington got Pennick through the portal. Who else was, FSU, definitely. They benefited on the receiver side. Welcome back, Amedeus. I've been tap dancing here.
Yeah, it's just not my day, Jim.
Not your day. Okay. Well, been there. I was there this morning. We were just talking about some of this stuff. Teams that were helped in the portal. I said that Washington with Pennick and Bo Nix at Oregon, definitely. Well, I gotta say USC, right? 100% on that one, because Caleb Williams came there too. So yeah, those are three that I can think of right off the top of my head. I think I think Ole Miss got Kiffin got some quality players at Ole Miss from the portal.
DJU to Oregon State. I think you don't even have to nail down a specific team. I think if you just look at where the conferences are right now, right. Everybody's talking about how in its last year the Pac-12 is the best conference in college football this year. And a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal. Look at teams like Cal and Colorado who use the transfer portal. And what used to be the strongest conference in football, which, really has been dwindling over the last few years and doesn't have many strong teams in it this year, the SEC. And over there, you have a bunch of coaches who don't really like to use the transfer portal as much. Obviously, look at the demise of Alabama and Nick Saban really not utilizing the transfer portal there. And, say what you want about the team. They do have good players. But as you said on a show last week, Jim, Sam Hartman would have went to Alabama before he went to Notre Dame in the drop of a dime. So just imagine the kind of team they could be if these coaches in the SEC weren't so fixed on, we got to find, 4-star, 5-star talent coming out of high school.
I would agree with the statement you made there on the Big 12. You're right. I think the Big 12 would have had a louder response from the other members had that been the case. So yeah, I 100% agree with you on that. But it sounds like league presidents were advised it would be tied up in court forever. Again, you're right. There's one great thing about legal situations: they can drag it out as long as they want to. which is one of those basic tenets of the legal system, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but in this case, depending upon who wants the money, it could be a bad thing. So they would have negotiated it out anyway. But anyway, uh, let's see. A couple of really interesting things. Amazon had on Thursday night's game with the 49ers and the Giants, had their best streaming numbers. The interesting part is if they were linear, in other words, if they were a broadcast station or even cable channel for that matter, they would have won the night. So when you get a streaming service that wins the evening, you're doing okay. The number, just for purposes of grins and giggles, the number that they hit, which was 16 million, was better than Game 5, which was the final game of the NBA playoffs this past year, and also better than the championship game in NCAA college. So just gives you an idea of how the power of the NFL and the power of Amazon has shown people how they they can stream TV, and it's becoming a much more accessible situation in that regard. So there you go on that. What else? Oh, how could I? Man, I apologize 100% to everyone. The story of the weekend was Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, and I blew it. I didn't come with that from off the top.
Yeah, I don't even think that's the story of Sunday, Jim.
I'm sorry?
I don't even think that's the story of Sunday.
Yeah. But unfortunately for Kelsey and Taylor Swift, they were not in Miami, where they hung 70 points up. It doesn't happen often, folks, in pro football. You know, do you realize? I mean, how hard is it? I mean, how hard is it to score 70 points in an NFL game? I mean, that's just stunning to me, you know, because of the way the game is paced, so that it's not as slow as a college game. But man, oh man, 70 points put on Tua and the boys. That probably didn't hang with Sean Payton well, but what are you gonna do? You can't stop him, that's for sure. Clearly, but
Yeah, that's something where I think Tua forgot he wasn't playing at Alabama this weekend because those are the kind of numbers I would expect from him with the Bama boys, not
right.
not the Dolphin boys, but yeah, that definitely the story of the weekend was that game. And as you said, how do you even score 70 points in an NFL game? They scored 14 points in every quarter, and really, you got to put some credit on the defense too,
Oh
because
yeah,
you need turnovers to get that many points. You
they
need
got him.
turnovers. You need
Yeah,
short fields. You
right.
need 3-and-outs. There's no other way to do it.
Well, and what was it? They scored Denver scored 20 points in the
Yeah,
game.
90
So
points.
there's 90 points in that
We
game.
can't even get 40 in these primetime games. Yet we
Right.
get 90 points between the Broncos of all teams and the Dolphins.
Right. That wasn't one of CBS's big games. They probably would have wished they would have been. Yeah, I mean that's what we saw there was record breaking stuff, and it's you know I just I back in many years ago. I was checking on stuff with for the NFL draft, and Mississippi Valley State had a game where they scored 87 points, and so I just wanted to make sure that it actually they scored 87 points, because that was back, before Sports Center and all the other situations where everybody had video on games. So I called the coach at Mississippi Valley State, who was a very polite guy. He didn't. Yeah, I actually called the SID's office and I got the coach. So there you go. Anyway, uh, I asked him, "How did you score 78 points?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "How did you do that?" And he said, "Well, basically, we scored every time we had the ball, and we scored every time they had the ball." So that's one way of doing it. I don't think that was, I mean, the situation with Miami. As we jokingly said, if you had Miami and laid 50 points, you still got pretty well. But yeah, I wonder what was. Well, don't worry. I was going to say wonder what the over under was on that game, but I guarantee it wasn't. That wasn't 90 points. I don't think
Yeah,
that
no,
was you know a situation. I don't think I've ever seen 90 points in an NFL game. As an over under.
yeah, we've as an over under, definitely not the
Yeah,
the most you'll ever see. Like there have been instances in the past a few years ago when you had like
sure.
the Rams and the Chiefs going against
Hmm.
each other and they knew it was going to be like a 40-40 game because no team had
Right,
had defense at the time and other things like that. But yeah, the highest you really ever see it is like 56 and a half,
right.
around that range. Anything more than that and you're really pushing it.
Hmm. And well, somebody be watching the Dolphins this week. It's kind of like that situation where if you're a baseball fan or a football fan, and they'll score like 70 points, or they'll score, like in baseball, they'll score like 10 or 12 runs, and you're saying, all right, now tomorrow they'll come out and they won't score maybe one run or two runs, or in the football situation they'll get one or two touchdowns, and you'll just go, how is that possible? But it's possible, and it is what it is. But um, the interesting part is how this whole thing shakes down, and I think that we'll have to see. But certainly, you and I were on Miami saying we thought Miami was going to do well, and they did it. They did it right. So
Yeah.
we're on Miami, and glad to see that that the Dolphins are listening. But man, that's a lot of points. All right, what we got, Terrence? Okay, both Fox and Disney are broadcasting all content in 720p, but my TV is 4K HD. Does that irritate you as much as it irritates me? Um, Evidently not. Terrence, I'll tell you a little inside baseball here. There's only uh, I'm gonna say approximately a dozen remote facilities, trucks that can do 1080p. Okay, and you want to hear the irony if you're a fan of the MLS? Every game the MLS does on Apple TV is in 1080p because they have all the trucks playing. They've scheduled the trucks. So yeah, I mean, honestly, I do understand your I do understand your frustration because you've got a wonderful TV and you want to see things as best you can. So we'll see, but until they come up with more, I mean, trucks for 1080p is relatively new. It's not new in Europe. They've done 1080p for a number of years. Their 720 is 720. All right, I'm just gonna say it. The NFL, not the NFL, the networks are cheap. They're only doing stuff in 720p. As I said, 12 remote facilities. Seven of them are owned by the same company, National NEP, are the companies that that have the capabilities of doing it. Uh, I know. I think. I think last year's Super Bowl was in 1080p. I want to say it was. I could be wrong, but
It better
I'll check
be.
into it. But yeah, because I remember my brother-in-law bought a brand new TV, and he was an 80-inch brand new television. He was excited about seeing how that came out, and I think he was somewhat displeased on how it came out because, to be honest, it only works. You can stream movies at 1080p. You can, but on cable, unless you have an unless you have an antenna, where you're not going through anything to get the signal. Even if you were 1080, it would be crushed a bit. And because, if you watch it, you can tell that on your cable. Your cable's not necessarily, you know, because, cable you know, is point to point to point to point. You're going to get a signal degradation each point that you go out. So as far as how many houses in your neighborhood that have cable, you're going to degrade each time you go from house to house to house. They have some, what do you call it, boosters, but it's going to be interesting. But I can understand the frustration, and I would imagine that we're going to be seeing more and more of the 1080p coming up. But those are very expensive trucks. CBS and broadcast content still not 4K. It is much better than Disney and Fox, yeah. Well, CBS and NBC, their main games are 1080, and like I said before, there's a dozen trucks out there, so it is interesting. We could go back in time. NBC actually, NBC was the first network to do all their games in color back in the 60s, and the reason being, at that time, was because they owned RCA Victor, which made televisions. So they wanted to sell color televisions, so the best way to sell color televisions is have as much of your content in color as you want. So I think we'll see more of that in the upcoming days, more H1080p stuff, so that'll be cool. So there you go.
It's funny you mentioned that thing with the trucks, Jim, because I bought a TV about 5 years ago. It's a smart TV, and I wanted to get the best of the best, and this was right when 4K came out. And I was about to buy the 4K TV, and the guy at the store actually stopped me and he said, "Look, what are you going to use this TV for?" Right? And I said, "I'll probably just watch sports and maybe use it for some gaming." And sure enough, he told me, he said, "Yeah, you know what? You're better off going with a TV that's higher in hertz. Go with the 240 hertz, because if you get the 4K TV, you're only going to be able to watch House of Cards. There's nothing." And remember, this was 5 years ago.
Right.
And he said there's nothing that's been filmed besides Breaking Bad and House of Cards. There's nothing that's been filmed in 4K. Right. And it's a very new technology that probably won't come out for a long time. So even if you buy one, the TV will be useless for the next few years. So that guy actually,
saved you some cash. Yeah, that was a good thing.
4K TV, because 5 years later, and we're still not getting things in 4K.
Right. And the other thing too, I remember we became. I was working with Fox. We were one of the first networks to come out with stereo, and so I went out and bought a stereo television, figuring, to your point, oh great, this is fantastic. And so I asked the guy who I bought it from, I guess these are flying off the shelves. He goes, "Well, I wouldn't go flying off the shelves." He goes, "As a matter of fact, to my knowledge," I said, "Yes." He goes, "You're from WOIO, right?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "You're one of 5 people in the entire city that has one of these television sets." So I'm like, so we were broadcasting, in stereo, and nobody outside of the people who worked in the station actually had a stereo television set at that time. So crazy, but hey, what's a mother to do? You got that done. Let's get into it. This week, a lot of stuff to pay attention to, folks. Tonight, Chicago Cubs, Atlanta Braves. That's your TBS game of the week. The late game is the Angels and the Rangers. So we'll keep you up to date on the pennant chase and all that. The networks will change all week long. It's going to be on MLB Network. My suggestion is tune in MLB Network and you'll get all that information, but we will try to keep you posted on the pennant races, because this is the last week of baseball season, and so we'll see how that all goes. a quick heads up, something you might want to do if you haven't already. Next week, not this week, not this week, next week, ESPN Plus is going to have playoff games, okay? So if you're going to waste your 1 week free trial of ESPN Plus if you don't subscribe to it, don't do it this week. Do it next week when the games will actually be on there, okay? So if you're going to invest in it, that's one thing. But if you're not and you just want to take a free trial because they give you a 7-day free trial, my suggestion would be wait till the ESPN Plus exclusive games come up in the playoffs. So that's coming up. Also, same thing will be the case for Max. Max has all of the excuse me. Max will have all of the streaming of TBS, which has the American League games. So the streaming on there you can watch on Max. So that'll be there. I don't know who's playing because we don't know who's the wild card teams and where they're gonna. We know pretty much where the wild card teams are, but not all of it. And so we won't know that. So that's the ESPN Plus. So if you want to go to Max and try a free trial of that, again, wait till next week for that. Fox has all of the National League, and Fox doesn't stream. So, that's you're gonna have to watch it either on your on Fox, with an aerial, or you're gonna have to have cable to get to the Fox Sports One, FS1. So that stuff we'll give you as we get it. We'll get into, as we always do, the football games as we get closer to them, and then it's Ryder Cup week, isn't it? In this Ryder Cup week.
Yeah, I've been seeing the commercials, so it's got to be right around the corner.
I don't know about you. I'm a fan of that. I like the team golf concepts in that realm, not the live team golf, but I do like the Ryder Cup.
Apparently, the Ryder Cup teams feel the same as you do.
I'm thinking, yeah, but just saying. We had the Sodcom Cup last week, which was entertaining if you're a golf fan, and so this time it'll be the Ryder Cup, and the U.S. and Canada has not, been up to the task lately, and that's why the game will be the tournament will be played in Rome. Now, I don't know about you, Amedeus, but if it were me, I wouldn't be. If I were if I was on the Ryder Cup team, wouldn't hurt me to go to Rome. I'd be okay with that. So, I'm down with that. If they want to send me to Rome, I'm good with it.
Yeah, definitely not a bad location to go. I've seen the course. The course looks pretty nice too as well. So
I like the course.
Yeah, a lot of green grass. I just I hate those courses with really yellow grass. It's just aesthetically it doesn't look nice. I can only imagine how hard the ground is.
Yeah. Jerry has a quick question here. Has the transfer portal created parity in college football? I think so. I think I don't know that it's created total parity, but I know this. Here's what it's done, Jerry. In my estimation, I want to get your input, Jerry, and also, of course, Amadeus. Anybody else who wants to put in their 2 cents. I think what the transfer portal has done, it has taken, and we saw this with Alabama, seen it to an extent with Georgia and others, not just them. Ohio State, Michigan, name your blue blood teams, whatever. Normally, they would have amazing depth. So, like, I would have to sit in line. I'm a great running back. I was recruited to Alabama, and I just may have to wait my turn to get my slot. That's not the case anymore. With the transfer portal, what it has done is it's taken teams where they have, a guy who feels like he should be starting someplace, but he's not. And he'll go and he'll find an offensive coordinator, because that's mostly what they're looking for, is the offensive coordinator that runs a system that best suits their needs. And that, I think, is what it's done. It's taken away from the blue bloods who may have had a very deep bench, and now it's giving them some really good talent, and you're getting to see teams like Tulane and I'll even go with my USF Bulls. I mean, this weekend, they put 49 points up there with Alex Golish, and Alex, really did an outstanding job in the portal. Tulane did an outstanding job in the portal. So there's these G5 schools that are taking guys from major, programs and reestablishing it. So I think that it's to an extent, yes, parity. But what I think it's really doing more than anything is it's giving players an opportunity to play and start where they may not have gotten that same play and start and success, frankly, than they would have gotten other places. So that's what I'm thinking, but that's just my thoughts. What are your thoughts on that? Hey, got anything thoughts on that, Amadeus?
Yeah, I would definitely say there's a lot more parity, and obviously, not with every team, right? But
Mm-hmm.
with a lot, even with a lot of the bad teams, like
Mm-hmm.
look at Vanderbilt. They're not going to compete in the SEC. They're a lot better than they used to be, and I think there's a lot of teams like that. Like look at Colorado and Cal.
Mm-hmm.
They're a lot better than they used to be. And again,
Stanford. Yeah.
yeah, and the Pac-12 was one of these conferences we said really benefited the most probably from
Mm-hmm.
the transfer portal because all these schools wanted to leave now, so they all went out there aggressively in the transfer portal to beef up the teams, and now all of a sudden we have a conference where you're not going to get a 1-11 team. You're not going to get
Right.
an 0-12. Well, maybe Arizona State with
You may end up with a two loss team that should be in the playoffs.
Yeah, 100%. Because obviously, you have some giants at the top there, like
Mm-hmm.
Washington, Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, USC maybe if they fix their defense, but
Well, in fairness, even Utah. I mean, they
yeah,
haven't had
that
Cam
was the next
Rising.
team I was going to say.
They haven't had Cam Rising out there, and their defenses, balled out. I mean, they really have balled out. Um, Jerry, you were talking about the Fox station. I don't know where you live, and it's none of my business where you do, but I would absolutely get in touch with Fox, with the local station. There's absolutely no reason why the the station, any station, be it Fox or anybody else, should power down their signal before a game. That shouldn't happen. I live in the LA area. Many affiliates are currently broadcasting the same content in 4K. Those include. That's good. That's good. See them. Okay. You got my old station out there, KTLA, Channel 5. Alumnus of that group. CBS. Well, those are network stations owned by the networks. So my hope would be, you think about this, Terrence. You live in the LA area. You benefit from that because CBS, NBC, and Fox. I mean, that's where the presidents of those networks live. So if they're going to do something right, I guarantee you. But those are the network stations, right? I mean, so you're watching some really good quality stuff out there. So good on you, Jerry. I'm sorry, Terrence. On that one, say hello to my friends at KTLA, Channel 5, Texarkana. Hmm. You would think, Jerry, out in that realm of the country, that they would. I don't understand why they'd power down. That doesn't even make any sense. I'm agreeing. I mean, I have no reason to doubt you. I'm just saying I don't understand why they would do that because that's hurting them as much as it's hurting everybody else. Uh, wow. Well, there you go. Terrence has spent some serious money on that television set, bud. I'm hoping you're getting some
Top
good.
of the line, all the
Yeah,
gadgets.
I'm hoping you're getting some good quality out of that, dude. That's a very good television you got out there. Um, I'm not nowhere near that in my capabilities. Correction, yeah, 3.0 tuner, very good. It's probably a good gaming system too out there. Just saying. Okay, all right. So, real quick, we got to get out of here, gang. I've Amadeus has got a life to live, and we got to get that going here. We don't want him to get in trouble. He's got stuff to write and things to do. All right.
Got Wi-Fi to fix, Jim.
Oh, geez. Yeah, but this morning I had this. I had a lag so bad that I could have gone to lunch and come back, and I still would have been. The freeze frame picture of me still would have been here. The question I have for you, sir, is there's a bunch in both leagues who still have a chance to make the playoffs. Who does in both leagues in your mind? We got a week left to play, and basically, I guess it's Seattle and Houston out there, and actually Seattle and Houston are playing each other in Seattle the next couple of days. So, how's that playing out? Who does Houston make it? Does Seattle make it? Is there somebody out there that sneaks in while these two are knocking each other off? I think it's fair to say that Toronto and Tampa Bay are. There's nothing to change those two from where they are, from the first and second. But I do think that third slot is open, and you would think that Houston, because of their history and the quality of the players that they have on there, would be that team. But Seattle's trying hard to knock that off. Evidently not hard enough because they lost last night, but still, it's going to be a doozy. Then you got, what is it? Chicago, Arizona, and Giants. Outside chance of Cincinnati in there as well. Any thoughts on those final slots of those playoffs? Who gets there? Who doesn't?
Yeah, well, I definitely think the specifically the Astros Mariners series is going to be one to watch
That's
because
critical. Yeah.
yeah, that one might just decide the whole race right there. But you never know. You're really locking in those Blue Jays. They're only one game really. They're like what, a game and a half ahead of the Astros here, and I don't know. They could lose to the Yankees. Obviously, the Yankees haven't been great this year, but they'll want to play some spoiler with the Blue Jays. So I don't know. The Jays are just a streaky team. Can't really trust them. But you're right. At this point, it looks like the Mariners definitely got to come to play these
Mm-hmm.
next few games if they want to pass Houston. But yeah, right now as it stands, it looks like the Astros are probably gonna sneak in there over the Mariners. But
Well, last night we saw, uh, we saw what we expected, a pitching match. He's been traded over there again. You know, uh, toting his Cy Youngs with him, and you know, I don't know. It's been a wild ride for. Why am I blanking on the name of the pitcher who got traded? He was with the Mets. Come on, Amedeus, help me. I pitched last night.
Scherzer,
Sure, no, it's not Scherzer. It was Texas. I'm talking about the other
oh,
one. The
Verlander.
other, yeah, Verlander. Thank you. God, jeez, my head is mush. Um, Verlander,
They're all in Texas now.
yeah, Verlander went over there and his ERA ballooned to 5.77, and he's won 2 games since he's been an Astro. So, not sure that was a good deal from that standpoint. But at the end of the day, right now, if I'm a Toronto Blue Jays fan, I feel comfortable in one thing, and that is at the end of this, let's say Thursday, right? If the Orioles can clinch, then there's no reason for the Rays to play hard because they've got a huge lead on the Jays for the number one, number two spot. They could sit some players on the weekend, and that would help because the Blue Jays finished the season playing the Rays, I think, over the weekend. That would be beneficial for the Jays in that regard.
See, that's the thing, Jim. The
Yeah,
Rays love to beat up on the Blue Jays. So
I
you're
know.
asking for a lot there
That's a
to
point.
sit there,
Yeah,
plus, especially when they know, a sweep over the Blue Jays and they might not even be in the play. This might not even be a team we have to worry about after
that's a
this.
good point. Yeah, they could say that. I know that they're hurting. I mean, they got some really banged up guys. So I'm just saying that maybe if they could. The problem is, and this is hilarious. And if you're, you know, they brought up some Steve Kinsella. We're gonna have Steve on before the end of the week. Steve Kinsella covers them, and Steve texts me last night. He says, "There's guys coming up and getting hits who I don't even know who they are." So they've brought some of their AAA guys in because the guys got hurt, and so they put a kid in the game last I guess it was last night who ends up getting who ends up getting a, or I'm not last night, Sunday would have been. They brought a kid in, his first major league at bat. He drives a run in, and the next time up he gets walked, and the next time up, he gets gets another hit, and it's like, this guy literally gets off the bus and he's playing like he should be.
Talk
So
about making the most of your opportunity.
yeah, 100%. So we'll see. I mean, I don't know, but we'll see how it goes out. The I think the this last minute rush by San Diego, I just don't think they're going to catch. I mean, it's just that's way they're 3.5 games out, and that's a long way to go when you have to jump over three different teams to get there. So, you know, they they underachieved, other than Blake Snell.
They should have thought about this earlier when they were sucking the entire season.
Well, I mean, we how many times did we say that they might as well just trade Soto and some of these guys and get something back? They didn't. Now he'll walk unless he gets a pillow contract for them. From that standpoint, one last thing about the baseball, there was some talk, and I think we even brought it up last week, that Mike Trout might want to trade to go somewhere else. Well, that was short-lived. He and Artie had a confab, and so
We need to sign another 5-year extension.
yeah, he now owns the team. So
The
yeah,
Tom Brady of the Angels.
right, exactly. So anyway, he and Artie are made up, and he says that he will be in an Angels uniform next season, which it doesn't surprise me. I mean, whose other jerseys going to be wearing?
He'll be in an Angels jersey, but watching from the sidelines
Yeah,
whenever
like
he gets
usual.
injured again.
Yeah, he'll hurt himself in spring training. Um, Look, I wish him all the best. I would love to see Mike Trout. I'd love to see the Angels in the playoffs. I mean, an entertaining little team. Problem is
They
they don't
had a
have pitching.
chance halfway through the season. Really at the trade deadline, they're right there.
Yep,
They
and they didn't
just
do anything.
dropped the ball.
They didn't even trade. I mean, that would have been okay if you're going to be a buyer, right?
The Mariners
And
gave away their closer, and they did better.
um, they should have given away. That would, if you know what, they could have traded Otani, and maybe that would have been the thing, right? Trade Otani and then makes the playoffs. That would have been something to watch. But what are you gonna do? Well, there's no football on tonight because it's only Tuesday, uh, and so we got that. Last night was not a good night for the Buccaneers. Buffalo played as expected. Or Philadelphia played as expected in that game, and the Rams, also had an interesting evening. So, anything what's coming up tonight that you're gonna pay attention to, and we should go down in our little show notes and check out from you, Amadeus, today.
Yeah, so you can get my plays at bigal.com, pickadvisor.com, and the insidersroom.com. All those links are in the description except for the insiders room. We will that one will be there
Soon.
soon. It's like I said, it's still a new site, but yeah, go check out my picks there for tonight. All I really have is Copa Sudamericana game of the month. I had a French league play that's kicking off right now, and you can get my NFC North game of the month for Thursday night's NFL game, which is
Aha.
already up. So big big Lions Packers showdown, obviously. So yeah, go check that out. I'll have plenty of college football and NFL and soccer up for the rest of the week as well.
What is it? Insiders?
TheInsidersRoom.com.
The?
The
The.
yes,
Okay.
the is important. Gotta get the in there.
Okay, hang on a second. Insider's Room?
Yeah, theinsidersroom.com.
Okay, well, ask and ye shall. Let's see if this is. Did we
Perfect.
spell it right?
Yep, you can
Okay.
just
Well, you can't click on that, but just cut and paste it. You can,
yeah.
or
Oh wait,
type it.
actually, there's an extra N in there. You got the
Oh, I
insider.
see where. Oh, I see where it is. Okay. I
But
was
other than that, yeah,
I was typing. I was typing fast. I wasn't paying attention.
you can type that into the URL or the even just the Google search, and it'll take you right to the home page. And obviously, you can just find by name under cappers there. But we will have a link to the page with my
Oh, wait a
specific
minute.
page in there. So
Okay, I screwed up. Where's the yeah? Well, you guys get the idea. Theinsidersroom.com. Let's do it. INSIDERS insidersroom.com. Did I misspell it again? I don't see two N's. Where's the insidersroom.com? Let's take one more look. Is that the insidersroom.com? Is that the right spelling?
yeah, just got to add the, and then
Oh,
that's
oh, oh.
your.
The. Okay. The at the beginning, of course. And for those of you at home, there we go. Let's see if this is right. Theinsidersroom.com. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So
Then
go check
that's,
that out.
yeah, go forth and enjoy. We want you to use it, put it with everything, bookmark it, use it often. And our buddy Rye Cape, you said, is there?
Yeah, he's on there.
And anybody else we know?
Yeah, just a few of the other people I've mentioned before. This bunch of great handicappers on there. So go check it out for sure.
Yeah, enjoy yourself. This is, we want you to have fun. We also want Amadeus to get a chance to have you guys as as a customer too. So there you go. All right. Well, that's gang. We have had a long day, and let's move on. And I hope that you had a great day. We've had a lot of fun talking with you, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Bring your questions, and we'll hopefully have the answers for you. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.